Who's gonna get all A's and maybe 1 or 2 B's? We're here today to be able to spread some love between the Atlanta Public School Systems and the City Council. I grew up in Atlanta Public Schools, Southwest Atlanta, and went to a school similar to this Barack and Michelle Obama Academy. And we give away backpacks at the beginning of the school year, but we know that by this point, kids have either lost a backpack, some have been torn, and also some have been soiled where they've left things inside of their backpacks, and sometimes they've, spilled out and got wet and those kind of things. So when I just asked these kids, they were like, yeah, I need a new backpack. So it's important for us to continue to support our kids throughout the school year, and that's what I'm doing here today. Inside of those backpacks, we placed a hygiene kit, we've given snacks, and we've given journals and school supplies. Wanted to bless them from my office to this school.
They wash the feet of others 365 days a year. Let's give them a big round of applause.
What we're doing out here today is a special Meals with Meaning Grab and Go giveaway. We have a commitment with HelloFresh, Pratt Industries, and Second Helpings Atlanta to do this every week. We're giving away 8,000 meals a week, but today is Tuesday. We're doing this for Thanksgiving. What we're doing is doing a special box full of all of the produce, all the vegetation you need to go with a turkey. So we're supplying a turkey, vegetables, mashed potatoes, greens, everything you need to make a Thanksgiving dinner, plus the instructions today. We're really excited because we're here at the Second Helpings Atlanta headquarters, and they do this every day. They divert over 3 million pounds of food a year out of landfills to help to fight food disparity in our community. And so we're glad to partner with them. And as you see, the turnout is tremendous.
We're here today for a job fair. We want to be able to connect people up with jobs. There are a lot of companies that need people. They're paying over $15 an hour. And so we're here at West 100th Street Baptist Church. We have Amazon here. They're very anxious to hire employees. We have UPS that's here. We also have some food service companies that are here. We have some City of Atlanta departments such as corrections. Also, we have the Atlanta Fire Department. So if people are looking for new careers or if people want to change careers, this is a wonderful opportunity for them to come out and to talk and find out how they can really make more money. So we're talking about jobs that are over $15 an hour, and I think that's real important. As people are starting to come off of the stimulus government, those government checks, they'll probably be ending in December of this year. They're going to need to be able to find jobs. And a lot of times the best way to find a job is to be face to face with that employer. That's an opportunity for a potential employee to really kind of convince that employer, I really want to work. I really want to have an opportunity to get a new career started, and I believe that I'm the person for you. So we're just very happy to be here in the West End community to be able to provide these jobs to people who are very interested.
Out here today at Victory Outreach Church. Great church in my community. I'm in partnership with Victory, New Calvary Baptist Church, and Tyler Perry Studios. for a Thanksgiving giveaway for my District 12 in my community. We're out here giving away food, all kind of vegetables, turkeys, right before Thanksgiving to give thanks for the folks in my district. I want to give a special thanks to Tyler Perry. Actually, he donated most of this food today, and we've been having an array of volunteers. This church that's in my community is also beautiful in terms of their volunteerism and what they do for our community. So I'm happy to be out here today just celebrating and giving thanks on Thanksgiving.
We're out here downtown today celebrating the completion of 4 projects that were voted on during our Downtown Decides participatory budgeting process. And we're riding a bike from one location to the other to do a ribbon cutting in each of the 4 transportation projects. Some of the projects we're celebrating today are new bike lanes in the Central Business District, the painting of an island in the middle of the road yellow so people can see it, and some new trash cans in the Sweet Auburn corridor. This is the direct result of citizens participating in this program. This is the first time we've done participatory budgeting in Atlanta, and it puts the power directly in people's hands on how tax dollars are spent, and we're just thrilled with the response and the success of the program so far.
Who's gonna get all A's and maybe 1 or 2 B's? We're here today to be able to spread some love between the Atlanta Public School Systems and the City Council. I grew up in Atlanta Public Schools, Southwest Atlanta, and went to a school similar to this Barack and Michelle Obama Academy. And, we give away backpacks at the beginning of the school year, but we know that by this point, kids have either lost a backpack, some have been torn, and also some have been soiled where they've left things inside of their backpacks, and sometimes they've, spilled out and got wet and those kind of things. So when I just asked these kids, they were like, yeah, I need a new backpack. So it's important for us to continue to support our kids throughout the school year, and that's what I'm doing here today. Inside of those backpacks, we placed a hygiene kit, we've given snacks, and we've given journals and school supplies. Wanted to bless them from my office to this school.
They wash the feet of others 365 days a year. Let's give them a big round of applause.
What we're doing out here today is a special Meals with Meaning Grab and Go giveaway. We have a commitment with HelloFresh, Pratt Industries, and Second Helpings Atlanta to do this every week. We're giving away 8,000 meals a week, but today is Tuesday. We're doing this for Thanksgiving. What we're doing is doing a special box full of all of the produce, all the vegetation you need to go with a turkey. So we're supplying a turkey, vegetables, mashed potatoes, greens, everything you need to make a Thanksgiving dinner, plus the instructions today. We're really excited because we're here at the Second Helpings Atlanta headquarters, and they do this every day. They divert over 3 million pounds of food a year out of landfills to help to fight food disparity in our community. And so we're glad to partner with them. And as you see, the turnout is tremendous.
Well, I'm here at the Capitol Apartments on Metropolitan Parkway. Columbia Residential purchased these apartments about 3 years ago and have been renovating these apartments. These are apartments that were low-income apartments that had been totally neglected for years, and finally was able to be purchased from the owner who had let them just run down to nothing. And I was so proud when we, as a city, was able to actually get funding from the city and the state as well with Columbia Residential. Noel Khalil, who God bless his soul, just passed a couple of days ago. I was so proud to partner this with him, and he actually was a part of this development. So as the apartments are being renovated, we made sure that we want to keep all the residents who were here, who were affordable housing. We didn't want to make sure we didn't displace them. Today, they're actually distributing food to all the residents in the apartments. There's about 200 or 300 apartment units here. And so today they're out in collaboration with the Food Bank, Atlanta Apartment Association, and Columbia Residential, giving out food to the residents. The fact that for the last 2 years or more that we're going through this pandemic, that we actually have built out these apartments during that phase and actually making it where folks can actually stay where they are. They don't have to struggle, they don't have to worry. We're actually helping them, supporting them, lifting them up. I couldn't ask for a better partnership with everybody involved, from the city to all the folks here today. I'm just proud that we have this and that we can lift our folks up.
Andrea L. Boone. Mr. Chair, we do have a quorum of members present.
Thank you, Ms. Lindo. If you'll now read the remote meeting statement.
Yes, good afternoon. Tonight's Public Safety and Legal Administration Committee meeting will be conducted remotely as advertised and in accordance with Georgia Code Section 50-14-1. The meeting will be conducted in conformance with Robert Rules of Order and the Rules of Council as authorized by the City Code. The public may access the meeting conference bridge toll-free by dialing 404-902-5066 and entering conference ID number 151945. This information was also provided on the Wednesday, November 24th, 2021 public meeting notice. The public may also view the meeting on Channel 26, the Council's homepage, at citycouncil.atlanta.ga.gov, Facebook and Twitter pages at ATL Council, and the Council's YouTube channel. All presentations are available on the Atlanta City Council website and accessible via the Public Safety and Legal Committee presentations page. Today's meeting agenda was also published and made available on Friday, November 24th via the city's website at atlantacitygA.iqm2.com. In addition, the public is able to submit comments via voicemail at 404-330-6022. Yesterday, between the hours of 4 and 7 p.m., these comments will be played during the public comment portion of this meeting. All persons present on the remote council meeting conference bridge are requested to please mute your phones and speakers. Meeting participants wishing to speak must be acknowledged by the committee chair. All amendments, substitutes, presentations, and any informational documents have been distributed to committee members beforehand. Thank you all in advance for your cooperation.
Thank you, Ms. Lindo. And if you also please make note, we've been joined by Councilmember Boone, and can we please ensure that she is unmuted for this meeting?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
At this point, we come to the where we adopt the agenda. Only thing I will note is we are going to handle the legislation first, and then come back to the three presentations we have today from APD Code Enforcement Division, and the update on establishing the Office of Nighttime Economy and Safety. So with that note, I'll make a motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved. Second.
Second by Councilmember Bond. Please prepare the vote.
And Councilmember Winslow has just joined you.
The vote is open, Mr. Chair. Will everyone please vote?
I vote myself and Councilmember Smith on e-boardroom. So I will call the other members. Councilmember Kuroki, what is your vote?
Yay.
Yay, Kuroki. Councilmember Boone, how do you vote?
Yes.
Yes, Councilmember Boone. Councilmember Winslow, what is your vote?
Yes.
Thank you. I think that concludes the vote. 6 yeas, 0 nays. The agenda is adopted. Now we'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the last meeting. Is there a second?
Second, Winslow.
Second by Boone. Please prepare the vote. Councilmember
Vote is open, Mr. Chair. Yeah.
Yes. Councilmember Bond, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Winslow, how do you vote?
In favor.
I think that concludes the vote with 6 yeas and 0 nays. The minutes of the last meeting are approved. Now, if you'll read and initiate the public comment, Ms. Lindo.
Yes, one moment, Mr. Chair.
Good afternoon, Chairwoman Shepherd and Public Safety Committee members. My name is Daniel Sim. I am the Director of Advocacy for the Georgia Restaurant Association. I am calling to speak in support of Councilman Brown's Ordinance 21-0-0953. You all should have received a letter from the GRA providing reasons for our support of this ordinance, and that it delays enforcement for requiring restaurants to obtain a statement from a CPA certifying that their sales meet the 50/50 threshold in order to renew their alcohol license. In essence of time, I will not go over all points of concerns with this requirement. However, I would like to point out that the requirement is still removed from the alcohol renewal website. This has caused some confusion, and if the requirement was to be enforced, restaurants are at a point that they would not be able to have an audit completed in time to meet this requirement. Throughout this year, we have facilitated meetings with some of our restaurateurs and Atlanta officials. Bars closing as restaurants and the overall rise in crime has been brought up in every meeting. After talking with other invested entities, we look forward to working with you all on other ways to combat crime that achieves the goals of City Council without putting a great burden on restaurants who have continued to overcome obstacles the COVID-19 pandemic has caused. This delay will ensure that more in-depth conversations can be had as we all work together on this issue. We thank you for your consideration and respectfully request Council supports this measure. Thank you very much.
Good on to Spirit of Christ. My name is Unruh Jordan. And if a man lie with his daughter-in-law, both of them the children be put to death. They have wrought confusion. Their blood should be upon them. Leviticus 28 chapter 12 verse. The death penalty was also required for the following: adultery, incest with a mother, stepmother, daughter-in-law, or mother-in-law, homosexuality and silence, bestiality, incest with a sister or half-sister, relation with a woman during her menstrual cycle. Jay Montgomery asked for death because he works against what Jesus has established as a family. And whosoever does not bear his cross and come after me cannot be my disciple. Luke 14, chapter 27, verse. Jesus teaches how to follow him and why. We say to the seer, see not, and to the prophet, prophesy not unto us right things. Speak unto us smooth things. Prophesy deceit. Isaiah 30, chapter 10, verse. He is to write down God's message for the time to come or for succeeding to read. He is to know that the people of Judah are a rebellious people who are telling the prophet, see not, prophesy not. They refuse the truth and would rather hear smooth things and deceit. When Jesus heard it, he said unto them, they that are whole need no need of the physician, but they that are sick. I came not to call the righteous, but sinners to repentance. Mark 2nd chapter 17 verse. For Jesus, as well as for the Old Testament, no man is righteous in God's sight by virtue of his own goodness. It got to be done by the Spirit of Christ, led by the Holy Ghost, to obey Jesus Christ, to fight the sin in us, around us, and in others. We need Jesus more than he needs us. The police go along with Jay Montgomery doing, coming in my house without my authority, no guards should die. Thank you, no baby.
Greetings, council members and staff. A special greeting to citizens and voters of Atlanta monitoring our government in action between now and tomorrow, election day. Ben Howard, chief advocate, public policy analyst. At a news conference regarding the proliferation of gas stations in southwest Atlanta and the proposed gas station at 2775 Campbellton Road, the pastor of Mount Carmel Baptist Church informed that one of the church members had her purse stolen while sitting at the bus stop across the street from the church. Before the SMS cafeteria closed, the then Secretary of NPUR reported that her purse was stolen as she walked out of the restaurant after a meal. In 2006, at a community meeting at Mount Carmel Baptist Church 15 years ago, residents along the Campbellton Road corridor, Council District 11 and Council District 12 and Post 3 at large were promised they would get better street lighting, synchronized traffic lights, walkable sidewalks, greenery, and public safety.
Good afternoon, Chairwoman Shepherd. And
Mr. Chair, that concludes the public comments.
Thank you, Ms. Lindo. Before we move forward in the agenda, I know I did note that we were going to handle the presentations after the legislation, but also I did want to also go ahead and make note that I do expect an update on the recurring E911 situation. So in addition to Chief Bryant with his presentation, before we move into those presentations, also going to ask that Deputy COO Johnson and Chief Information Officer Sankey be available, much like they were at the last meeting, having a little deja vu here with the E911 outage. So just ask that they be available when we do move into those presentations. So I want to make that note, but we'll now move on to the consent agenda, claims of favorable and unfavorable recommendations. On items 1 through 4, I will make a motion to accept those favorable claims. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Bond. Please prepare the vote.
The vote is open, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Kuroki, what is your vote?
Yes.
Ms. Boone, what is your vote?
Yes.
Ms. Winslow, what is your vote? Ms. Winslow, what is your vote? Okay, we can mark her as away, and that will conclude the vote, Ms. Lindo. There'll be 5 yeas and 0 nays. Those items are favorable. And I'll make a motion to adverse on unfavorable claims, items 5 through 10. Is there a second?
Second, Kuroki.
Second by Kuroki. Please prepare the vote.
The vote is open, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Bond, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Boone, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Winslow, how do you vote? Calling one more time for Ms. Winslow. Okay, we can mark Councilmember Winslow away again, and please close the vote.
The vote is closed, Mr. Chair.
Be 5 yeas and 0 nays. Those items will be adversed. Now move on to the regular agenda ordinances for second reading. Ms. Lindo.
Yes, Mr. Chair. First item is 210-0885. This is an ordinance by Public Safety and Legal Administration Committee amending the fiscal year 2022 budget intergovernmental grant fund by adding 2 anticipations and appropriations in the amount of $189,898 on behalf of the Atlanta Fire Rescue Department for the purpose of funding the car seat fitting station program developed by the Atlanta Fire Rescue Department and for other purposes. And Mr. Chair, we do have a substitute that will include the budget accounts and the legislation.
Thank you. I'll make a motion to bring that substitute forward. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Bond. Please prepare the vote.
The vote is open, Mr. Chair.
Councilmember Kuroki, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councilmember Boone, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councilmember Winslow, how do you vote? Councilmember Winslow is away, and please close the vote.
I'm here in favor. In favor.
Okay, Councilmember Winslow is in favor. That will make that 6 yeas and 0 nays. The substitute is before us. And I'll make a motion to adopt on substitute.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Smith. Please prepare the vote.
The vote is open, Mr. Chair.
Councilmember Kuroki, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councilmember Bond, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Boone, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councilmember Winslow, how do you vote?
In favor.
Thank you. Please close the vote.
The vote is closed, Mr. Chair.
There's 6 yeas and 0 nays. That item is favorable.
Next item, Mr. Chair, is 21-0886. This is an ordinance by Public Safety and Legal Administration Committee authorizing the mayor or designee to enter into a Fourth Amendment to lease agreement with Chester Avenue Loft, LLC, a Georgia limited liability company, for approximately 3,500 square feet of office space located at 890 Memorial Drive Southeast, Suite 6, Atlanta, Georgia, 30316, for the Atlanta Police Department Task Force Unit Mini Precinct, commencing retroactively on July 1st, 2021, and expiring on June 30th, 2022, at a lease rate not to exceed $1 per year, and authorizing the expenditure to be charged to and paid from accounts listed herein and for other purposes, and also waiving the procurement code of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances, Article 10.
I'll make a motion to adopt. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Bond. Please prepare the vote.
The vote is open, Mr. Chair.
Councilmember Faroki, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councilmember Boone, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councilmember Winslow, how do you vote?
In favor.
Please close the vote.
The vote is closed, Mr. Chair.
Item is favorable with 6 yeas and 0 nays. Next item.
Next item, Mr. Chair, is item number 3. That's 21-0887. This is an ordinance by Public Safety and Legal Administration Committee authorizing the mayor or her designee on behalf of the City of Atlanta to execute a lease agreement with the Trustees Israel Missionary Baptist Church, a Georgia nonprofit corporation, for approximately 9,000 rentable square feet of office space at 2025 Hosea L. Williams Drive Southeast, Atlanta, Georgia, 30317, for the Atlanta Police Department Zone 6 Main Precinct, commencing retroactively on October 1st, 2021, and ending September 30th, 2024, at an annual rate of $76,411.56, plus utility and other expenses, and authorizing the expenditures to be charged to and paid from accounts listed herein, and waiving Article 10, Section 2-1546 of the Procurement Code of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances, and for other purposes.
Thank you. I'll make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Bond. Please prepare the vote.
The vote is open, Mr. Chair.
Councilmember Faroki, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councilmember Boone, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councilmember Winslow, how do you vote?
In favor.
Please close the vote.
The vote is closed, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. That item is favorable. 6 yeas, 0 nays. Next item.
Next item, 21-0928. This is an ordinance by Councilmember Carl Smith to amend Chapter 10, Article 2, Section 1092B of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances so as to provide an exemption from the distance requirement listed in Section 10-88.1 of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances for one package store licensed to sell malt beverages and or wine by the package located at 1383 Blatchfield Street, Southeast Atlanta, and for other purposes.
Move approval, Smith.
All right, I will second that. Councilmember Smith, please prepare the vote.
The vote is open, Mr. Chair.
Councilmember Faroki, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councilmember Bond, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Boone, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councilmember Winslow, how do you vote?
In favor.
Please close the vote.
The vote is closed, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. That item was favorable. 6 yeas, 0 nays. Next item.
Next item, Mr. Chair, is item number 5 is 21-0953. This is an ordinance by Councilmember Antonio Brown to waive the provisions of Chapter 10, Article 2, Section 10-106 of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances, requiring restaurants or other licensed establishments exempted from certain distance requirements contained in Section 10-88 to submit a statement regarding gross food sales from a certified public accountant during the alcohol license renewal period. And Mr. Chair, there's an amendment just to add to the last part of the caption that the Such that the statements from the certified public accountants shall be required for alcohol licenses renewed or issued for the 2022 calendar year and for other purposes.
Thank you, Ms. Lindo. Just to clarify, is that an amendment or a substitute?
A substitute.
Okay, I'll make a motion to bring that substitute forward. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Bond. Please prepare the vote.
The vote is open, Mr. Chair.
Councilmember Brokey, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councilmember Boone, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councilmember Winslow, how do you vote?
In favor.
Please close the vote.
One moment, Mr. Chair. Ms. Smith, I think that.
Yay. I don't know what's wrong. I voted up here.
The vote is closed, Mr. Chair.
All right, substitute is before us, 6 yeas, 0 nays. I understand the law department and possibly APD would like to speak on this. Is either of them with us?
Yes, I believe both are on the line, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Guess we can hear from law first if they would like to speak on where the law department is on this legislation.
Hi. Good afternoon, Chair Hillis. This is Amber Robinson from the Law Department. With the acceptance of the substitute, the Law Department has no legal concerns with this legislation, though, of course, I would be happy to answer any questions that there may be about the operation of the legislation or the provision which it waives or anything that the committee may need.
Thank you. I may have some questions in a minute, but would like to hear from, I guess, Chief Bryant or whoever is on the line representing the License and Permits Unit and where they stand with this revision of pushing the state back another year.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. This is Rodney Bryant, Atlanta Police Department. We are not in support of pushing this item back. This allows us to have greater. Can you hear me? I'm sorry.
Yes, Chief, we can hear you.
Okay. Right now, under the current provisions under restaurants that operate as nightclubs, the police department has very little authority to address it. Currently, we have had 58 violent incidences at these locations, with 31 or so operating as restaurants. What this allows for us to do is to have greater control over these entities and give us the ability to fight crime more in the areas that are affected. Additionally, it gives us the ability to control what's happening in the community, being that there's a level of provision that these locations operating as restaurant would have to have a designated time to stop pouring and giving us ability to manage that crime.
Are you there, Chief?
Yes, that's what I have. I just think that it gives us pushing this back just requires the police department to have more difficulty in being able to manage these locations without these provisions being in place.
All right. Thank you for that. And I will also just make a note myself that this legislation was originally passed back in February of this year. So we've had, I guess, 9 months of preparation, and it just went through the public process just like any other piece of legislation does. Introduced, goes through the committee, goes to city council, multiple opportunities for public comment. So I'm not supportive of pushing this back. I'm not supportive of this legislation either. So we'll see if anyone wants to offer a motion on this item.
Chairman Hillis, if I could ask a question, I don't have my buttons online.
Yes, please go ahead.
This is Councilmember Faruqi. Thank you. Chief Ryan, you mentioned a number of incidents or establishments, and then a number related to violent incidents, which called to mind the nuisance law we passed last year. And I'm curious, from your perspective, if the nuisance powers that we've, for lack of a better term, the nuisance law that we've passed has been helpful in these instances where we have kind of, troublesome establishments that may be operating as a nightclub when they're licensed as a restaurant. Just any insight on how that law has or hasn't been helpful in tackling some of this problem. And I realize the nuisance ordinance is tied to violent activity, multiple violent actions either in the establishment or just outside. And you could have an establishment that's operating illegally that has no violent activity, which is why we need this legislation. But just if you can comment on the nuisance piece and how that has played into this from an enforcement side of things.
Absolutely. So it has been helpful. The ordinance has been helpful. It allows us to prioritize locations that we need to address, but it still requires us to have a large bandwidth to deal with. With this new ordinance in place, I think that it tightens that bandwidth and gives the police department more leverage and ability to address a smaller contingency of properties and locations.
Okay. That's the only question I have, Chairman. I do want to remark. I'm somewhat torn on this. We need this in place because we need to have these kind of these accounting teeth to make sure that folks are operating as they say they are. I do have some sympathy, particularly for smaller mom and pop restaurant establishments, and the cost of getting an audit is not insignificant. But I hear you. We've had 9 months. The city has had 9 months to prepare for this, and I'm still kind of grappling. But kicking out a year feels a bit much. And I presume, just correct me if I'm wrong, that assuming we pass this, it is effective immediately. Is that right?
Yes.
Or maybe okay. And if Ms. Robinson or someone from the law department needs to confirm that, please do. I'm trying to think if there's a middle ground here. Like if we say it's effective, July 1, given the fiscal year, oftentimes starts then, or it's effective March 1, just to give folks a little more breathing room. But we do need this in place. Yeah, sorry, Ms. Robinson.
No, I apologize. So because the renewal season opens in September of every year for the upcoming calendar year's alcohol licenses, if the effective date of the ordinance that you all are considering now were to be, let's say June 1 or March 1 or something, it would mean that the requirement for the CPA statement would be in place for this year's renewals, which are all due on December 31st, but would not be required for next year's renewals, which would be due December 31st, 2022. So if it is the intention of the author to provide relief this year, it is necessary that the ordinance be effective immediately, applicable for renewals for alcohol licenses, which would be in effect in 2022.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you, Ms. Robinson.
And just to clarify, Ms. Robinson, so the application period for 22 is already open, so this ordinance would not be effective for that application period, so the audit would still be required in this period, but not next year's application period. Is that correct?
No. If this ordinance were to pass as substituted, it would mean that nobody who is applying for renewal to have an alcohol license in 2022 would be required to provide the statement. Of course, as you note, the alcohol renewal period has already begun. So therefore, some persons may have already had their certified public accountant statements prepared and submitted because they've already submitted their renewal applications. But if this legislation were to pass, it would mean that nobody who failed to provide that statement could be denied a renewal for 2022.
Okay, I think that's what I was somewhat getting at is with the application period already being open, the people that have waited to the last month would not be required to turn in that, or I guess the last few weeks, given this wouldn't be effective until it became effective by operational law or signed by the mayor in a week to 2 weeks. So with that, we do have another speaker, Councilmember Smith.
So, I don't know if you can hear me. Okay.
Yes.
I'm trying to figure out, I think you just kind of summed it up. So really, if we were going to do this legislation, because I do agree that maybe some of the smaller restaurants, maybe they've been, more affected by COVID and they've never had a day like they do their own stuff. It would be a little harder for them, something signed by a certified public accountant. But if everyone already...
Good.
If everyone already got a letter back in September saying that they need to do this, Ms. Robinson, is that correct? We sent out a letter in September telling everybody to do this?
No, the renewal period began in September, pursuant to it runs concurrent with the state alcohol renewal process, which opens in September. Legal notice of this requirement was provided in February, as Councilmember Hill has stated, through the legislative process. Everybody received all of the legal notice necessary for this during the legislative process when it passed in February.
Yeah.
So
thank you.
But
cleared it up. I mean, because they've had since February, and I mean that's nice. But even I've got a lot of small restaurants. I've got one that my neighbor catty corner across the street or down the street a little bit runs, and it's just a small mom and pop place. But even they haven't called to complain. So okay. We should have, if we were going to do this, we probably should have done it back in February to give them the relief of 1 year. But since we didn't, I do think we need to move on. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I believe that concludes our speakers, unless someone else would like to speak. Otherwise, anyone would like to make a motion? I will make a motion to hold this legislation. Is there a second?
I'll second you.
Thank you, Councilmember Smith. With your second, please prepare the vote.
The vote is open, Mr. Chair.
Councilmember Peroki, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councilmember Bond, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Boone, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councilmember Winslow, how do you vote?
In favor.
Please close the vote.
The vote is closed, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. This item is held. 6 yeas, 0 nays. Next item, Ms. Lindo.
Yes, Mr. Chair. That's item number 6, 2100962. This is an ordinance by Councilmember Jennifer and I to amend Chapter 10, Article 2, Section 10-109 to provide that following the general election and on a general basis where the License Review Board shall have conducted a hearing and reported its conclusions and recommendations to the mayor in accordance with the Section and the mayor does not make a decision upon the conclusions and recommendations of the License Review Board prior to December 31st of the quadrennial year, the conclusions and recommendations of the License Review Board shall become the final decision of the mayor and for other purposes.
All right, I'll make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second, Boone.
Second by Councilmember Boone. Please prepare the vote.
The vote is open, Mr. Chair.
Councilmember Kroki, how do you vote? Excuse me, was that a yes, Councilmember Kroki?
Yes, it was. Yes.
Councilmember Bond, how do you vote?
Abstain.
Councilmember Winslow, how do you vote?
In favor.
Please close the vote.
The vote is closed.
Thank you. That is 5 yeas, 0 nays, 1 abstention. Item is favorable. Next item.
Mr. Chair, this is a dual referral, so this will move to the Finance Executive Committee.
Okay.
Next item, Mr. Chair, is item number 7, which is 21R 4262. This is a resolution by Councilmember Antonio Brown to extend the District 3 Blight-Free Advisory Board for a period of 12 months, effective from December 1st, 2021 to December 1st, 2022, and for other purposes.
I'll make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second, Boone.
Second by Councilmember Boone. Please prepare the vote. Councilmember Faroki, how do you vote?
Mr. Chair.
Yes, my vote is yes.
Councilmember Bond, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Winslow, how do you vote?
In favor.
Please close the vote.
The vote is closed.
There's 6 yeas, 0 nays. Item is favorable. Next item.
Next item is item number 8, which is 21R 4301. This is a resolution by Public Safety and Legal Administration Committee authorizes the mayor or her designee to exercise the first renewal option for FC 8101 Sergeants and Lieutenants Promotional Testing on behalf of the Atlanta Police Department with Industrial Organization Solutions, Inc. for a term of 6 years effective from December 21st, 2021 through December 20th, 2027 in an amount not to exceed $200,000. All contracted work will be charged to and paid from accounts listed herein and for other purposes.
I'll make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second, Boone.
Second, Councilmember Boone. Please prepare the vote.
The vote is open, Mr. Chair.
Councilmember Faroki, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councilmember Bond, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Winslow, how do you vote? Councilmember Winslow, how do you vote?
In favor.
Please close the vote.
The vote is closed.
All right. It's favorable, 6 yeas, 0 nays. Next item.
Next item is item number 9, which is 21R 4302. That's a resolution by Public Safety and Legal Administration Committee authorizing the mayor or designee on behalf of the Atlanta Police Department to accept the donation of naloxone and training related thereto from the Georgia Department of Behavioral Health and Development Disabilities Office of Behavioral Health Prevention and federal grants pursuant to the City of Atlanta Charter, Article 1, Section 1-102C7 to authorize the mayor or designee to enter into any necessary agreements in connection with the donations authorized herein and for other purposes.
Make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second, Boone. Second, Winslow.
Second by Boone. Please prepare the vote.
The vote is open.
Councilmember Faroki, how do you vote?
My vote is yes.
Councilmember Bond, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Winslow, how do you vote?
In favor.
Please close the vote.
The vote is closed.
To 6 yeas, 0 nays, the item is favorable. Next item, please.
Next item is item number 10, which is 21R 4303. This is a resolution by Public Safety and Legal Administration Committee authorizing the reemployment of the City of Atlanta retiree police officer Richard Light in the Atlanta Police Department for annual compensation not to exceed $58,281.60 pursuant to Section 3-505B of the Charter of the City of Atlanta and for other purposes.
I'll make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second, Winslow.
Second by Councilmember Winslow. Please prepare the vote.
The vote is open.
Councilmember Faroki, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councilmember Bond, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Boone, how do you vote?
Yes.
Please close the vote.
The vote is closed.
It's favorable, 6 yeas, 0 nays. The next items, 11 through 15 are settlements, and if there's no objection, we can take those as a block, Ms. Linda.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Item number 11 is 21R 4304. This is a resolution by Public Safety and Legal Administration Committee authorizing the settlement of all claims against the defendant in the case of Alva Hill versus City of Atlanta, Municipal Corporation of the State of Georgia, doing business as Atlanta Police Department, civil action file number listed herein, pending in state court of Fulton County, Georgia, in the amount of $350,000, and authorizing the settlement amount to be charged to and paid from accounts listed herein, and authorizing the chief financial officer to distribute the settlement amount and for other purposes. Item number 12 is 21R 4305. This is a resolution by Public Safety and Legal Administration Committee authorizing the settlement of all claims against defendants in the case of State Farm Mutual Automobile Insurance on behalf of William Howman versus City of Atlanta, civil file action listed herein, pending in the state court of Fulton County of Georgia in the amount of $9,000, and authorizing the settlement amount to be charged to and paid from accounts listed herein, and authorizing the chief financial officer to distribute the settlement amount and for other purposes. Item number 13 is 21R 4306. This is a resolution by Public Safety and Legal Administration Committee authorizing the settlement of all claims against defendant in the case of Janelle Maxwell versus C. Cunningham, Atlanta Police Department, and the City of Atlanta, civil action file number listed herein, pending in the state court of Fulton County, Georgia, in the amount of $38,000, and authorizing the settlement amount to be charged to and paid from accounts listed herein, and authorizing the chief financial officer to distribute the settlement amount and for other purposes. Item number 14, 21R 4307. It's a resolution by Public Safety and Legal Administration Committee authorizing the settlement of all claims against defendants in the case of Quentin Allen versus City of Atlanta, civil action file number listed herein, pending in the state court of Fulton County of Georgia in the amount of $240,000, and authorizing the settlement amount to be charged to and paid from accounts listed herein, and authorizing the chief financial officer to distribute the settlement amount and for other purposes. Item number 15 is 21R 4308. It's a resolution by Public Safety and Legal Administration Committee authorizing the settlement of all claims against the defendants in the case of Christopher Allen versus City of Atlanta, civil file action number listed herein, pending in the state court of Fulton County in the amount of $39,999.00, and authorizing the settlement amount to be charged to and paid from accounts listed herein, and authorizing the chief financial officer to distribute the settlement amount and for other purposes.
All right, I will make a motion to approve these 5 items. Is there a second?
Second, Winslow.
Second by Councilmember Winslow. Please prepare the vote.
The vote is open, Mr. Chair.
Councilmember Faroki, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councilmember Bond, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Boone, how do you vote?
Yes.
Please close the vote.
The vote is closed.
Item is favorable is 6 yeas and 0 nays. And I believe that concludes our regular agenda, but we're coming to the end of the year and the end of the quadrennial. So if there are any papers that need to move forward from held, Please speak now.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Councilmember Bond.
Yeah, I'd like to pull up my paper. I'm not sure what the number is.
Number 26, Mr. Bond.
Thank you. I'd like to pull that up from held and move approval.
Okay, Ms. Lindo, if you'd read that ordinance for us, please.
Yes, Mr. Chair. That's 210-0761. That's an ordinance by Councilmember Michael Julian Bond as substituted by Public Safety and Legal Administration Committee, authorizing the Office of the Public Defender to donate eviction defense services through a partnership with a nonprofit 501(c) organization involved in providing eviction defense services to existing City of Atlanta residents and for other purposes.
All right, Councilmember Bond, would you restate your motion?
I'd like to move approval.
All right, I will second that.
Second.
Please prepare the vote.
The vote is open, Mr. Chair.
Councilmember Cherokee, how do you vote?
I will abstain.
Councilmember Boone, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councilmember Winslow, how do you vote?
I'll vote in favor of it.
Okay, please close the vote.
The vote is closed, Mr. Chair.
It is 5 yeas, 0 nays, 4 yeas, 0 nays, 2 abstentions. It is favorable.
Thank you.
Any other items on held that need to move forward? All right, if not, we will go back to the beginning of the agenda and the presentations. And I would like to start off, before we get into what's on the agenda, I would like to start off, as I stated previously, getting an update as to the happenings and where we are with this, I guess you would say, most recent E911 outage over the past few days. So Chief Bryant would like to kick us off with that, as Deputy CEO Johnston. We can please get a synopsis and an update as to where we are with that.
Thank you, Chairman Hillis. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Okay, outstanding. Good afternoon, Chairman Hillis and members of the committee. So briefly, on the afternoon of Monday, the 22nd, the City of Atlanta backup generators shut down due to overheating. The 911 center immediately transitioned, again, back over to the Fulton County 911 center with little to no interruption to 911 operations. And this is certainly a credit to Director Arnold and her team for making sure that, the happenings early in the month, we were able to move forward with some of the updates and updated plans of actions. So certainly a big credit to them. But again, this also disrupted our servers located in the building and the associated applications. The City of Atlanta, DEEM, and its vendors, we immediately began to assess the cause of the generators which overheated, which had been running for approximately 16 consecutive days, ultimately determining that a broken gear for the fan belt was the cause. And so the team, they worked simultaneously to find the necessary replacement parts, and we worked very closely with our contracted vendors to provide resolutions going forward with the parts, and also to place alternative backup generator options. And on the afternoon of Wednesday, the 24th, the landlord, which is Maple Tree U.S. Management, and its vendors received the necessary parts and conducted the change to bring the commercial power back into the building for the City of Atlanta's floor in the building. And we were informed that this change was initially believed to be successful, but the power was determined to be unstable. Ultimately, it failed again on Wednesday evening. So on Friday morning, the 26th, we reconvened to discuss some of the options with the landlord, which is, as I stated, which is Maple Tree, and develop an updated plan to bring the commercial power back up. And so during the day on Friday, our team coordinated closely with the landlord's team and ultimately implemented a plan on Friday afternoon around 4 p.m. So the primary commercial power was restored and has been stable. Some applications were brought online that evening, and additional applications began to be restored on Saturday morning, the 27th. And certainly this is a credit to CIO Sankey and his team for quickly jumping into action and moving us forward. And so, we continue to develop options and plans for putting in place backup generators and continue to assess the timeline for bringing the 911 center back to 180 Peachtree. And so, again, I want to certainly acknowledge, the hard work by Commissioner St. Hill and his team, Tobin, and those folks were certainly on site trying to help work very closely with the landlord to address this issue. So, and if there are no other questions for me, CIO Sankey and Commissioner St. Hill, they are both on the call as well. And we also have Assistant Director Ryan Solis on the call from 911.
What?
So, Chairman Hillis, if there are no other questions, that's all I have.
Okay, sorry, I was on mute there for a few seconds. So, Deputy COO Johnson, so the primary electrical source has or has not been reestablished at this facility?
Yes, the commercial primary source has been reestablished, and this happened over the day on Friday. So we do have commercial power back into the building.
And what is the status of the backup generators? I know at our last meeting I brought this up as a concern of mine about the backup generators, and was assured those were either have been or would be immediately addressed. I mean, I understand they were running for, I think you said 14 to 16 days straight, but at a location as important as this one, I mean, we should maybe even have backups to the backups. So what's the status of the backup generators at this time, or something else happened?
Certainly. I'm sorry. I'm sorry I cut you off.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Well, Commissioner St. Hill, he is on the call, and he can speak to where we are with the generators, the backup, and the backup to the backup at this point in time.
Can you hear me? Yes, Mr. CIO, or we can hear you.
Good afternoon, council members. Yes, so the backup generator is being currently worked on. The bearing part for the fan belt is on order. We're in the process of trying to obtain that backup part. But in the meantime, we are looking at the landlord to provide us use of a secondary backup generator that is on the roof. They are in the process of repairing that backup generator, and we should be able to use that as our backup to the backup in the near future. Currently, also right now, we do have our UPS system, which is up and running, which will give us at least 30 minutes of backup power if something were to occur, where the servers and such can be shut down properly. But until later on today, we are expecting to have that backup to the backup up and running, and the part to our actual generator being on order this week.
Thank you for that. These couple questions maybe Deputy CO Johnson, maybe the law department. But number one, within this lease, what is the property owner or landlord? Are they going to be held responsible for any of this stuff? And two, where are we on the lease on this building, this facility?
Chairman Hill, this is Justin. So I missed the first part of your question. Were you asking about the responsibility for the landlord? I'm sorry, I missed a portion of that question.
Yes, I was asking, number one was, what is the responsibility of this fall on the landlord? And number two was, considering this has been an ongoing issue for over a month now with multiple occurrences of issues, where are we on the lease with this landlord of this facility?
Certainly. I know the real estate team, we did pull the lease agreement on last week and started combing through some of the more specific responsibilities. I will say the landlord has been responsive to this point. However, there are some elements within the lease agreement that we certainly need to work through, but we'll need to have those substantive conversations with the law department, who has been made aware of sort of some of the issues where we are. But Remy, I don't know if there's some elements from a real estate perspective that perhaps you or Mike may have worked through on last week to add some additional context to my comments.
All right. Well, we do. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we do have to do some further investigation with the law department relative to the lease. Now, there is a provision in the lease relative to a force majeure, which holds them not responsible for anything that were to happen relative to the overall problem, to the main power to the building. But we are looking at other areas of the lease to see what recourse we have relative to this problem and addressing it moving forward.
Okay, and the second part of the question was, where are we in this lease agreement?
Yeah, this is a 30-year lease, and I think we have another 10 years. And the way this lease was written, it is very difficult for us to get up out of this lease. That I can say. When I looked at it, there's not much wiggle room for us to get out of the lease. But again, we'll all be in close communication with the law department to see what avenues that we actually have.
And either you or Ms. Hickson, if she is on the line, who in particular has been assigned this issue within the law department?
This is Nina Hickson. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Our real estate division chief is Donna Wilson, who would be responsible for looking at this, and members of her team who deal with real estate matters, including Mr. Michael Ward.
Okay, thank you for that. My last question, then I'll refer to my colleagues for any further, is another issue I brought up at the last committee meeting was where are we with ensuring that the Public Safety Training Center being worked through right now would include a backup 911 center. Is that included in the current plans? I know it's in the overall master plan, but with the current funding that we're looking at, is it included in that plan, Deputy CEO Johnson?
Yes, sir. That is included within the plan for the 911 center to be located within the Public Safety Training Center complex.
All right, thank you for that. And the only kind of caveat I would add to this, I mean, I know I just heard we're 10 years out on this lease, but it might be beneficial to start looking at maybe having a primary 911 center at that Public Safety Training Center, or at least looking at, another primary location, given the issues we've had here with this facility and this landlord. So that's my 2 cents. I'll refer to my colleagues for any other questions.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Councilmember Bond.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a question for whoever can answer it. As we work through the issues, the immediate short-term issues with the power and the generators, is there, of course, the long-term issues, the chair has indicated or has asked about it, it's now been revealed that there will be a 911 location at the new Public Safety Training Center. Are there any efforts underway presently to set up an alternative site somewhere within the city's property more immediately in case something else were to happen at this building?
Yes, sir, Councilman Vaughn, thank you for that question. And there's great wisdom in in the comments of relocating to a new facility. So the real estate team was asked on late last week, middle of the week last week, to start identifying relevant locations based on existing facilities, square footage, and that sort of thing, but also security needs, electrical upgrades, that sort of thing, as it relates to relocating to a different facility, given the needs and what we actually can control as an entity. And so, yes, those efforts are underway. We've not been briefed as of yet what some of those options are, but that work is certainly underway.
Do you have any kind of realistic timetable as to? I think we only have one other committee meeting this year. Do you have any indication of how long this might take? 30 days, 60 days, 90 days?
Well, I will imagine, just given the knowns, it really shouldn't take longer than 30 days to identify realistic locations for alternate sites. And so, Commissioner St. Hill, I don't know, based on the UF time frame and direction that you provided the team, if you're in agreement with that. But from my perspective, it should not take longer than 30 days. But I'll certainly defer to the experts in this space.
No, it shouldn't take longer than 30 days, but we do have capable locations that we can, such as the airport and other locations that we can possibly go to. But it's just a matter of setting up the infrastructure in order to have the capabilities of the same capabilities of the 911 center. And I believe AIM could be working on those type of things as well, so that more things can be more readily available to us, in all applications ready to be set up, so that we can have an adequate, good backup location. But that was what I could think that we can have right now. But we do have a couple of good options at hand so that we can pretty much move within 30 days.
Now, is this something that we would have to act upon like an emergency procurement, or can we handle this within our own bureaucracy and staff to get?
I would imagine you're going to need emergency procurement, because I think a lot of it is the infrastructure background to the IT equipment that you're going to need in order to set it up. That's the biggest obstacle. Location per se is not necessarily the biggest obstacle. I think is the infrastructure in order the capabilities with the servers and things of that nature is going to be the biggest obstacle.
So are you all in sync with the procurement department or the designated person in the law department are they on board at this point, so that when you do have the location that we can immediately have some legislation act?
That currently not just yet, but we are in the process of getting that together, yes.
Okay. I'll yield, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Bond. Anyone else? Okay, if no one else, we'll move on to our next presentation. But thank you, Deputy CO Johnson and CO St. Hill and everyone else who contributed to giving us an update on the E911 Center. This time we'll have the Atlanta Police Department's quarterly report. Chief Bryant.
Thank you. I would like to give acknowledgement. This is Roger Bryant, Chief of the Atlanta Police Department. I also would like to give acknowledgement to our E911 team, as well as Deputy Chief O'Connor, and who worked diligently to ensure that our systems remained up and that we had very little impact to our responses. And so everything remained smoothly, even throughout the holidays. So I just thought it was important that we acknowledge them once again before going into its report out.
Yes, sir, Chief. Much thanks to everyone at APD and our 911 operators who worked through this. Thank you.
Okay, this will be our third quarter report. If you go to page 2 of that report, you understand that this is from July 1st. through September 30th, which was our summer months, which we typically would see an increase in crime. This year we saw some of the same, but it was not a significant increase because we believe we put a strong strategy in place. We saw a 2% reduction in our murder rate, which is one under where we were in 2020. We're still seeing increases as it relates to rape, but again, these rapes are generally between known victim and offender, and then the robbery numbers we saw just slightly increase above where we were in 2020 as well. Aggravated assault numbers through the summer were 711 to 679, which was a 5% increase. And then our burglary numbers were a decrease of 5% from 497 to 472. Our larceny from auto numbers were up slightly by 9%, and our other larceny numbers were up, which this is where we began to see a significant increase at 34%. And then our auto theft numbers rose slightly to 3%, giving us an overall, from summer to summer, a 10% increase. The thing that I would bring to the committee's understanding is in 2020, this is when we had very little activity and we were dealing with civil unrest, and there was not much, we didn't see a significant increase in the crime numbers. For us to be 10% over, again, we would clearly like to be under, but to manage it to that perspective, it's to the credit of the team's plan to ensure that we did not lose total control of what we had to deal with over this summer. If you take a look at page 3, which gives us a more perspective from year to where we are currently, our murder numbers are the area we continue to struggle in, where we are seeing a 10% increase from where we were in 2020. Our rape numbers, again, are seeing an increase at 60%, but a 20% reduction from where we were in 2019. Our robbery numbers are on the decrease as well. We're seeing a 6% decrease in those numbers and a 19% reduction from where we were in 2019. Our aggravated assault numbers are slightly up at 13% and up 28% over where we were in 2019. Our burglary numbers are down 25% from last year and 43% down from where we were in 2019. Our larceny from auto numbers are up slightly from where we were last year at 3%, down 16% from 2019. Our larceny other numbers are up 11% and down 23% from where we were in 2019. Our auto theft numbers are up slightly 7% and just up over 6% or where we were in 2019, giving us a total decrease in crime at 15%. And so overall, what we are, and I think, again, it is important that I identify the fact that the numbers that we are seeing the increases in, they are down from where we were in the summer. And so letting us know that we are really moving this crime in the right direction. Taking us a little longer to get to where we need to be, but all the numbers are moving in a more declining perspective. If you go to page 4, this breaks out our homicides per zone. Zone 1 and Zone 3 lead with 13 homicides each. Zone 2 for the summer only had 1. Zone 4 had 10. Zone 5, 11, and Zone 6, 3. What you see by the third quarter, we had 51. In the second quarter, we had 38. In the first quarter, we had 33. If you go to page 5, which gives you the perspective of homicides per zone throughout the year, Zone 1 and Zone 3 continue to lead in their respective areas with 30 and 31. Zone 2 at 11, Zone 4 at 28, Zone 5 at 20, and Zone 6 at 22, giving us a total of 142. Again, I think it's important that we understand that most of the homicides that we have investigated this year tend to be perpetrator and victim had some correlation with each other. There are very few where the victim and the perpetrator of the crime did not know each other. Most of these incidents were very isolated in nature. When you go to, and additionally, our clear-up rate remains high in making an arrest and identifying the perpetrator. We stay in the areas of high 70% to 80% in our clear-up rate. If you go to page 6, our number of shooting victims, Zone 1 tends to lead with 53 shooting victims, Zone 2, 9, Zone 3, 39, Zone 4, 61, Zone 5, 43, and Zone 6, 12. As you can tell by our numbers here, our shooting victims for the third quarter is at 217, which is down from second quarter of 298, and just slightly up over where we were in first quarter. So what that tells us is that we are having less people shot, and for some reason the homicide rate continued to incline, even though we're having fewer people shot. If you go to page 7, it spells out the shooting incidents throughout the year. Zone 1 has a total of 161. Zone 3, again, 171. Zone 2 at 66. Zone 4, 134. Zone 5, 147. And Zone 6 at 85, giving us a total of 764. Again, we're starting to see those numbers decline, and I attribute that to some of the strategy that we have put in place, and it goes back to what we were seeing last year this time and previously, that more than 53% of our violent crimes were around the nightclubs and social areas, and with the nuisance strategy put in place, we were able to see those numbers come down. If you go to the next page, which is page 8, it shows the number of weapons recovered in the third quarter. We recovered a total of 701 weapons. Stolen from vehicles in that same quarter, 611. So year to date, we've recovered 2,439 weapons and had 1,907 stolen from vehicles in year to date in 2021. You go to our next page. Again, one of the things that we have to continue to do in the Atlanta Police is to continue to work within the community. Page 9 identified the school drop-off where we were, our Atlanta Police Athletic League had a school drive at the Ivy Community Foundation out on Stone Road, where school items were given to the community and kids so that they could be prepared for school. Additionally, we had a National Night Out. I think we had over 23 events as it relates to us attending National Night Out. Even though it rained, we still had a phenomenal showing and getting out into the community. And then if you go to page 11, this is the one that we're very proud to address as it relates to our attrition. We have begun to see our attrition stabilize much earlier. Right now, we are at 141 total attrition. That's resignation, dismissals, retired, medical disabilities, recapture, ending, and deceased personnel total. And so what we compare that to is the number of people hired and what that looks like. Right now, we're showing 96 on your slide and 106 as of last year. That number has changed significantly. I think we're at 114 or 116 with more onboarding. And by next week, we should be at 127, if I'm not mistaken. That number should show that we have exceeded where we were last year, giving us a net gain of police officers compared to our attrition this year. As you can see, the application process, last year we only had 1,229. This year, 4,490. And again, that goes back to the work with the mayor's office, us addressing, and HR addressing some of the technology and keeping our finger on the pulse as it relates to what we're doing in background and investigation. Our resignations have slowed significantly. Last year, this time, we were at 113. Today, we're at 70. Our retirement has remained consistent last year as it relates to where we are this year. Mr. Chair, that concludes my report, unless you have further questions.
Thank you, Chief Bryant, for the report. Anyone have questions for the Chief? Okay, no problem. Thank you.
I have some questions, Mr. Chair, when appropriate.
Yes, Councilmember Bond, go ahead.
Oh, well, thank you, Chief Bryant, for your report, and of course, for the work that you continue to do on behalf of the citizens, all those who are sworn and non-sworn that work for APD. We appreciate you. But I have a couple of, just two sets of issues. The first is just wanted to get an update on the deployment of cameras, or the modernizing of cameras in parks. Deputy Chief pointed a couple of months ago that probably wouldn't be able to fully implement that until January. And just wanted to know if you had any update on the progress of that.
So currently, Councilmember, we're in the process of improving our camera system, utilizing a new platform. And as we are onboarding different cameras now, I don't know the status of that one specifically. I'll be able to update you shortly after this call. But with the new platform, we'll be able to bring on several that were not or have been in update that aren't there currently.
Okay, that'll be great, because I was hoping that it could happen, before January, because people obviously still using the parks. But in that vein, I understand that there was an incident in Piedmont Park where an officer was able to assist a person who had been shot, and was able to provide a tourniquet until the ambulance and EMTs could be there. Were there cameras operating, or was there body cam? Well, I guess they're always wearing body cams, but do we know if the cameras in the park were operating at that time? I believe this happened at Piedmont Park.
Council member, we have to look into that one. I'm not familiar with that particular incident where it occurred inside the park. Let me have the team take a look at it now, and I'll follow right back up with you.
Okay. Well, while you're getting that, the other issue I had was just some questions about the incident that happened at the airport with the individual who discharged a weapon and got away, and wanted to know, is there, is there a shortage of APD staff at the airport, or is that reflective of the shortage of staff overall, or, what's the status out there on deployment of officers?
Right. So, so that we don't conflict the two, absolutely that we're, as you well know, we have, we're in the midst of rebuilding our resources, not just at the airport, but throughout the Atlanta Police Department. But the way that things develop out at the airport during that incident, when all parties began to run, the individual blended in to that crowd and was able to escape and get away when the entire crowd began to run out of that facility. We've since recovered that weapon and in the process of tracking that individual down as well. But I wouldn't say that it was necessarily just because the staffing. What we tend to do is make sure that we have appropriate location staff every day at the airport, and those numbers were adequate.
Okay. Now, just as a follow-up to that, I know that TSA is out there, and I think there's some federal enforcement officers out there, but they're the international terminal, right? And this happened in the domestic one. Is there, my question is, I know TSA doesn't do enforcement, they just do, are you getting, or is it possible to get a better partnership with some of the other federal law enforcement that might be at the airport?
Council member, we have a strong working relationship with all our partners at the airport, and not just at the airport, because many of those partnerships actually blend over into the city. And so we work very hard together as it relates to it. We'll be working on action as what occurred.
Sounds like somebody's trying to dial in or something. I couldn't hear you.
I'm sorry. We have a very strong working relationship with our partners at the airport. We'll be doing an after action to see what we can do better to improve upon what occurred that day. But we relied upon many of our partners, and as well, I received calls from many of our partners at the airport as well as throughout the city as it relates to what our response could be and what they could do to assist. And upon my arrival, there were several of our partners already on the campus of the airport upon my arrival during that day.
Okay. Well, that's good to know. When the after action report is prepared, is it shareable? Can we see it?
Yeah, as soon as it is completed and we work through it with the aviation, we'd be glad to share.
Well, thank you for that, Chief. This is the last point, and I'll withdraw, Mr. Chair, after this. I know that I saw an article in the paper today about how other agencies around the state obviously are having the same issues in recruiting and retention, and there's a move afoot for many of them to try to raise or match the salary increases for their police officers like we have done. Has there been any talk or consideration about probably moving the needle on our salaries to attract and retain our officers in that vein, given that this seems to be going to be more of a competitive trend to kind of keep and recruit people in the coming year?
Well, first, Councilmember, thank you for that. Right now, the city of Atlanta, I believe in my communications with several chiefs throughout the state, is doing, we're just ahead of where many of them are as it relates to recruiting. So we are ahead of our metrics and think that we will be able to meet some of the goals set forth by the mayor. We work with the mayor's office and meet weekly as it relates to what we can do to improve upon our recruitment strategies to make sure that we don't lose any ground. Everything that may come up, we discuss, and so it has been brought up. At this point, we haven't seen a need to make that drastic of a change. But as it relates to what our recruitment dollars are, our ability to bring people to this community, working with the foundation to get housing for some of our recruits, as soon as that come online, we think that those will be key elements to bringing people to the city of Atlanta as opposed to other locations.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for that, Chief. And again, thank you for the job that you and all those you work with in the department do to keep us safe. And if it hasn't been said enough, we appreciate every day the men and women that put on those uniforms, because I know that just leaving the house, they put themselves in harm's way, and they make a conscious decision to do it. And we want to make sure that we're continuing to support them and helping to provide them with, the salary, the benefits, the equipment, etc., what they need for the sacrifices and the things that they contribute. So please keep us abreast, because if you need it, I just want to be one on record that I want to help them have what they need to do their job. And with that, Mr. Chair, I will withdraw.
Thank you, Councilmember Bonds. Colleagues, anyone else with questions? Okay, Chief Brown, I did have one question. This kind of goes back to the 911 issues. I had received word over the weekend or over the holiday, certainly, that someone was told after they had a vehicle stolen that the officer couldn't write a report because something of the effect they were out of report numbers, which I guess are generated by 911 or data terminal or something like that. Is that something you're familiar with? And
yes,
that is over the weekend, or update us on that?
Yes. Well, I'm familiar with the incident. I can tell you that it was a level of miscommunication. We were never in a space where we could not do a police report or give a number. That matter was investigated and corrected.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that. Again, if no other colleagues have questions, we will move on to our next presentation. Thank you, Chief Bryant.
Thank you.
All right, next up we have a presentation from the Code Enforcement section of APD. I believe Major Schifferbauer is with us. Major Schifferbauer?
Yes, sir. I'm here. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Okay. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, council members, and citizens listening to this council. I am Major Brian Schiffbauer, the commander of the City of Atlanta Police Department's Code Enforcement Section, and today I will be presenting the quarterly report and update for Code Enforcement. Next slide. This will be the agenda. Today we're going to discuss staffing levels, an overview of the inspections, the complaint intake versus complaint resolution, violent crime proactive code enforcement inspections, the junk vehicles on private property update, and the fiscal year 22 compliance resolution activity. Next slide. This will be staffing. So currently, code enforcement has an authorized level of 67 positions. A total of 44 civilians and 4 sworn employees currently occupy those positions. We have a total of 19 vacancies, and of those 19, 10 of those are actually code enforcement officers. About half of the vacancies were created by general attrition. The remaining number of vacancies, which are pretty much the code enforcement positions, are due to the employees accepting other positions from other city departments and other departments metro-wide for more pay. We're currently interviewing to fill these positions, and we have 2 code enforcement officers slated to start by the end of the year and 2 additional to start at the beginning of the year. We also have 2 additional employees that would be customer service techs that are currently in the background phase of the process right now. Ms. Talley recently completed and submitted a salary analysis, and we sent it up to APD HR to more or less be try to get more competitive with the pay. Next slide. This will be the inspections. Just a quick overview, and in case you can't see the key down below, the blue bar will represent initial inspections, the orange one will represent re-inspections, and the gray bar will represent court re-inspections. So in 2021, initial inspections were up 17% from 2020 and down 21% from 2019. In 2021, re-inspections were up 1,932% from 2020 and up 92% from 2019. The significant increase in re-inspections is due to the pandemic. Code enforcement officers didn't conduct field inspections from March of 2020 to July of 2020. When they returned to the field, they were focused on the initial inspections, and that's pretty much because municipal court was still closed at that time. 2021 court re-inspections were down 75% from 2019. None were completed during this period in 2020 due to the pandemic. We're currently diligently working on the property re-inspections that weren't in compliance. Next slide. This will be the complaint intake versus complaint resolution. And again, just in case you can't read the key, the top chart where it says complaint intake, the blue is going to represent the external complaints. It's pretty much going to be your citizens, people that call into 311 to make complaints. And the orange is going to represent internal. And those are proactive inspections that are completed by our code enforcement officers. We received 14% more complaints in 2021 than 2020, and 35% less in 2021 than 2019. The code enforcement officers are continuing to generate these complaints on their own while they're out there working in the field. They're doing a phenomenal job. Whenever we go out to a complaint that we receive from 311 or someone calls into the office, an external complaint, we just don't look at that house, we look at everything around it. So that's how a lot of these proactive complaints are generated. If you go down to the next chart, you'll see complaint resolution. And again, the blue bar represents voluntary compliance, orange court actions, gray compliance resolution, and the yellow would be other case closures. In 2019, quarter 3, there were 2,433 cases that were closed out. I don't even want to reference quarter 3 in 2020 because we were in the pandemic. And quarter 3 in 2021, we closed out 3,104. Now, from the difference between quarter 3 in 2021 and 2019 was about 25%. We closed 25% more cases. So I think that that was pretty big. The other thing that I wanted to highlight with this, and this is a good job by our code enforcement officers, is the quarter 3 2021, like I said, we conducted 3,104 inspections. And of that, 1,932 were voluntarily complied. So that's 75% of the, that's 75% of the cases, that's 40% of the overall cases were complied. And what I attribute that is the mere fact that these code enforcement officers are actually educating the citizens, and they're actually having conversations with the citizens and telling them what they need to do to get their property in compliance. And it's been pretty successful, and you will see that that continues to be the trend as we go on. Next slide. This will be the violent crime proactive code enforcement inspections. Last year, I instituted a proactive inspection initiative that was formulated to assist in fighting violent crime. So if there is a homicide and aggravated assault, we deploy our code enforcement officers out to that location, actually do an inspection of that property and the surrounding area. So this last quarter, we conducted 136 proactive inspections. Of that 136, 44 of those locations were found to have some type of code enforcement violation, and 92 were found not to have any code enforcement violations. Next slide. This will be the junk vehicles from private property. Our junk vehicle on private property program has been pretty successful this quarter. There were 126 junk vehicle complaints that were addressed by the code enforcement section. Of that, 29 junk vehicles were actually impounded from the property, and 97 of those placarded vehicles complied, which means that they either moved it, they registered it, or just got it out of eyesight, period, or fixed whatever problem made it a junk vehicle. So that number of the 126, 97 were complied. That's 77% this quarter. And again, I'd like to attribute that to our code enforcement officers and Officer Exum and Officer Smith from our sworn side actually taking the time to go out and talk to the citizens and tell them what they need to do and why this is happening. So it's actually worth the time, so we don't take an heirloom from somebody and take their property from them. And you'll find that the majority of these people, they do want to comply. So it's a good thing. The majority of the vehicles towed were from districts 9 and 10. And for the vehicles that are on a property and they're behind a fence or there's so much vegetation around them that we can't get to, we actually give a citation to that property owner, and they have to go to court and deal with it that way. That is the way that we have been dealing with the vehicles that we can't access. All right, next slide. This is going to be the fiscal year 2022 compliance resolution activity. Members of council, you should have a handout for this particular slide, and it'll be in reference to the locations in which I'm about to talk about. Okay. Demolition activity for the third quarter. We had 13 demolition orders executed since July 1st. 74 demolition projects have been awarded to city contractors, and they're pending permit issuance. We'll talk about that in a second. And over 200 orders are pending award. So we have 200 in the holding waiting to be executed. This is just an FYI based on what I just stated there. We are seeing about an average waiting period of about 90 days from the Office of Buildings to get these permits going. And that's just an FYI in response to the demolition activity. The clean and close activity, we executed 13 clean and close orders since July 1st. And the clean and cut activity, we executed 41 of those projects. Now, of those 7 projects that were executed, we have to thank Chief Dancy from the city jail for helping us out with an inmate detail. He's been a huge help. And we also have 10 clean and cut projects that are pending, and they're scheduled with Chief Dancy's inmate detail. They've been a huge help to us. We don't have to spend money on that. We're actually able to go on some of these nuisance properties in which the citizens are calling in and really complaining about them. So we can go out there and help them in a more timely fashion. And the last slide. This concludes the quarterly update for the code enforcement section. I'd like to take this time to thank the code enforcement officers for their phenomenal work. I would also especially like to thank Deputy Director Daphne Talley. She has an amazing drive and she does phenomenal work as well. If you see one of your code enforcement officers out on the street, thank them because they've been working hard even straight through this pandemic. And at this time, I'll take any questions anyone may have.
Great. Thank you, Major Strickbauer. And this first want to echo your praise to the code enforcement officers and to Deputy Director Talley for all their hard work. The first question is on the vacancies. I know you mentioned some code enforcement hires that may be coming in. Where are we with, I guess, getting more of those? Plus, in particular, looks like there's 2 inspector positions that are still unfilled, and those are pretty important, when it comes to NREM and demolition. So I just want to get an update on where we are with those.
Yes, we are going to. So right now we have one acceptance letter that's pending for the building inspector, and we're just waiting for that to be accepted at this time. The other code enforcement officers, they are going to open that back at the beginning of the year, and we look to get filled as soon as we can. Does that answer your question, sir?
Yes, sir. And we all be opening the other inspector position up as well?
Oh, yes, absolutely. At the beginning of the year, these will all be opened up. What we wanted to do initially is we had some vacancies with a supervisor's position, code enforcement senior, and the building inspector. The reason for the building inspector vacancies is one passed away last year, Mr. Joe Scott, and the other one was promoted from within, which gave us those vacancies. So, like I said, we are hiring for that right now, and we should, like I said, at the beginning of the year, we should see these positions filled pretty quickly.
Understood. I didn't see it on the list here. I see all these lists that have been awarded, but how many did you mention? How many did you say that were pending an award?
One second, please. Right now, there are over 200 orders pending an award. 74 demolition projects have been awarded to city contractors already.
Okay, and what is the backlog with over 200 that are awaiting award? Is that a funding issue? Whether it's CDBG money, general fund money? What's the issue with getting those out to the city authorized contractors for demolition?
So the city contractors that we have, they're getting backlogged, and that's the whole reason why I wanted to talk about the average waiting period. It's been taking a long time, not just on the city level, but the state level as well, to get these permits. That is pretty much the holdup and what we're working on. As that number 74 dwindles down, we'll start awarding more of those 200 that are there.
Okay. And in particular with the city building department of city planning, is there any particular holdup? Is it, the arborist? Is it site development? Is there a certain holdup, or is it just the overall permitting time of, you said an average of 90 days?
I think I hate to speak on their behalf, sir, but I think that it's going to be a combination of the permitting process itself and maybe their staffing issues.
Understood. No, it's definitely something I will take it upon myself to look into, hearing that from others as well. I believe with that concludes my questions. Colleagues, do you have questions for the Major? Major Schiffbauer, thank you for the presentation. And again, thank you to your team, particularly Deputy Director Talley and all of our code enforcement inspectors for all the work that they do.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, yes.
I wanted to go ahead and he said something about thanking our code enforcement officers and Daphne Talley. I saw her at court last week over at in Judge Portis's chambers, and we had a court case, and she was there, and just really, really appreciate her. She's like,
indeed, she is great. Any other comments, questions for Major Schiffbauer? All right, with that, we will move on to our final presentation, which is an update on establishing the Office of Nighttime Economy and Safety. And I believe we have Ms. Williams here to speak on that.
Yes. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon, Ms. Williams.
My name is Philana Williams. I am the co-director of the Mayor's Office of Film and Entertainment. I would also like to acknowledge the Mayor's Office of Innovation and Performance for helping us to put together this recommendation. We'll start with page 1. And these recommendations are for the establishment of an Office of Nighttime Economy and Safety for the City of Atlanta. We move to page 2. Atlanta's nightlife economy has always been vibrant and integral to the culture of the city. It also has always been a strong driver of economy and jobs to the city of Atlanta. Until now, there has been little research into what Atlantans do at night and how to think about the capital's life at night. The purpose of this presentation is to give a quick overview and some insight into other nightlife cities and how they have transformed their nightlife and entertainment to make it not only more profitable, but a safer industry for everyone. With the assistance of an outside strategic consultancy firm who has experience in helping cities like Atlanta to transform and grow their nightlife economy, the goal is to quickly conduct a research study on the totality of Atlanta's nightlife and the best practice recommendations on how we move forward to progress. Among other things, this report will inform the city on how to move forward with a nightlife office and or designated nightlife officer, public safety's role, advocacy for the nightlife community, and other pertinent requirements needed to sustain a healthy ecosystem. You can move to page 3. We've listed cities that already have nightlife offices. Many of these cities are already within the United States. There are a few outside cities that we listed too that we felt were very comparable to Atlanta. Atlanta, the metro area population of Atlanta is 5.9 million. Cities with either a nighttime mayor, a nighttime manager, there are different titles for this, but other cities include Orlando, with a metro population of 2 million, Pittsburgh, with a metro population of 1.7 million, San Francisco, with a metro population of over 2 million, Washington, D.C., with a metro population of 5.3 million, Detroit, with a metro population of 3.5 million, New York City, with a metro population of 18.8 million. We also listed London, metro population of 8.9 million, and Amsterdam, metro population of 1.1 million. So we met over the phone with a lot of the nighttime managers or representatives from these cities, and we gathered quotes and recommendations from these nighttime representatives. I'll read a few of these. New York City's nighttime senior director of the Office of Nightlife said the nighttime economy and diplomacy is a world movement. There are many existing case studies and ideas for proactive management, city agency cooperation, and creative solutions. We can move to slide 3. Orlando, recommendation, create and use your steering committee to identify action items for immediate, subsequent, long-term, and ongoing solutions. San Francisco, an economic impact study can validate that nightlife is a key economic driver worth treating as a serious industry. I'll read a little bit of Fort Lauderdale, know what's going on in your city, learn about the development projects, traffic improvements, crime waves, utility issues, etc. And in the presentation, there is a link on each page where you can look at the reference and more information on some of the suggestions and recommendations from different cities with the nightlife office. Next slide, slide 5. San Francisco, understand how the position is perceived by other cities, which is what we're doing now. Next slide. I'll speak a little on what lessons they've learned in their process and the progress with their nighttime offices. Many of these nighttime offices were were established around 2013, 2014, some 2015, 2017. And a few of the lessons learned, nightlife stakeholders can be hard to engage and connect with if you are coming from government. One of the things that we discussed is how important it is that the person in this role definitely have background in nightlife. Research show that it's important for them to even have experience in hospitality sector as well. The most important thing is that it should be somebody that really knows the nightlife, which I just touched on. The voice of nightlife should not be limited to party politics. You want a diplomat, someone seen as a robust and strong, not as a yes person. Why this role is important, next slide. Nightlife businesses have a lot of regulations that are frequently not customized for their business models and city staff to service. Nightlife businesses are typically small and lack the capacity to fully engage with the city. These businesses need an advocate. The lack of planning for nightlife creates conflict, especially between nightlife and residential. This leads to reactive policy focused on restriction instead of encouraging vibrancy. We must plan more effectively for future compatibility. Next slide is recommendation 1 from our research. It is our recommendation that the city move forward with designating an individual from the Office of Film and Entertainment to fulfill duties of this role until a permanent person can be recruited and hired. Once this person has been onboarded, this role will continue to report to the Office of Film and Entertainment. As this role expands, a need to develop an actual Office of Nighttime Economy would be inevitable. So in the research that we've done, and when you factor Atlanta into the cities that already have an Office of Nightlife, it is our strong recommendation that we move forward with someone in the Office of Film and Entertainment. Many of the cities have that role in their entertainment office. So it would be our recommendation that someone in the office is designated to support the research that we suggest be done immediately to curate a plan for Atlanta for that nightlife officer and or an Office of Nighttime in the city. Next slide, which is our recommendation 2, is that the City of Atlanta retain an outside strategic consultancy firm to conduct research on Atlanta's nightlife and entertainment ecosystem and produce a full report on recommended best practices. This consultancy firm will specialize in music, culture, and the nighttime economy around the globe. Their clients will consist of local, regional, and federal governments, convention and visiting bureaus, tourism boards, economic development councils, chambers of commerce, business improvement districts, research institutions, private firms, and more. It will take approximately 6 months to conduct a full study on Atlanta's nightlife ecosystem. The cost will range from $150,000 to $200,000. The services this consultancy firm will conduct are research and analysis, infrastructure and development consultancy, stakeholder engagement, economic impact, mapping and placemaking, events and conferences. Next slide. This is a timeline that we put together on next steps for this research and this role. By December 31st, roles and responsibilities of an interim nightlife representative will be defined. January 17th, a consultancy firm will begin research on Atlanta's nightlife economy. February 1st, the search for a permanent nightlife manager begins. April 1st, a permanent nightlife manager is selected. And June 30th, a consulting firm, the consulting firm hired would present research and suggested next steps for the City of Atlanta's nightlife ecosystem. That concludes the report. The last slide is, if any questions, that you might have, we are open to answer them for you. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Williams. Colleagues, any questions?
Chairman Hillis, this is Councilmember Faruqi. I do have one question or comment, if I may.
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. I wanted to thank Alana for your presentation, all the work that's been done. This is very encouraging. I think the timeline is appropriately aggressive, and the steps being taken to find a firm to help articulate what it should look like here are all great. My only yellow flag is you use the term nightlife and nighttime economy interchangeably, and I view them as different. And my concern here is we start the process, and there's a long way to go, obviously, but is that we conflate the two, because to me, the nighttime economy is bigger than nightlife. So nightlife is obviously a big part of what goes on in our city at night, which is great. And by that I mean bars, nightclubs, lounges, restaurants, the hospitality sector broadly, performance venues, all that stuff. But I think the nighttime economy is and could be more of a whole bunch of other activity that happens at night in our city that I'm hoping that this position or this office also takes it into account. So everything from hotel and hospital workers to food truck and rideshare drivers. There's a whole kind of economy of folks who are working at night who may not be specifically in the nightlife industry, but I'm hoping that this office or this person, however it tends to shape out, has in their remit as well, right? So it's not just traditional nightlife. That's one. And the other two is I would hope that this person or this office would also be encouraged or expected to interface with residents, because I see this office or this person not only problem solving issues for nighttime economy stakeholders, but those kind of conflicts that emerge between residents and the nighttime economy, whether it's a noise issue or a parking issue, whatever it may be. And so I would encourage y'all to kind of add that to the RFP or the remit as kind of one of the stakeholder groups that this office or this person will be kind of expected to interface with.
Thank you, Councilmember.
So I guess that's a comment / question. If you have a comment on it, I'd love to get your reflections on that.
And I do, and I agree wholeheartedly. And yes, part of the consultancy firm's job would be to customize a plan for Atlanta and give us their best practice suggestions based on our very unique nightlife ecosystem. And I do believe that you are correct. I think that the nightlife economy and nightlife are definitely two different things. However, starting this, we will probably be limited in our resources and a body to represent this community. Very important that as soon as the consultancy firm is hired, that we have someone internally, not only a representative who is interfacing with this consultancy firm, but actually engagement and communication with everyone involved to make sure that this research is well-rounded. So I would agree with you. Other offices, like New York City, their Office of Nightlife is huge. It's massive. I believe they have about 20 people, but they are further about a decade into the game where we're just starting. So agree 100% with you, and we would absolutely, I will add that to this presentation, and definitely something we should ask for the firm to factor in when they give us their best suggestions moving forward. And then absolutely agree too on, this person and office would need to interact with the community, with the stakeholders, with the NPUs. It needs to be a well-rounded position with input from everyone in the nightlife ecosystem.
Excellent. Well, it's great to hear, and I appreciate you adding the nuance to it, and very excited about all the work that's gone into this on your side, and excited for what it could yield for our city. So thank you for the mic, Mr. Chair, and I yield it back to you.
Definitely. Thank you, Councilmember Faroki. Any other questions, colleagues, for Ms. Williams? All right. Thank you, Ms. Williams, for the presentation. We look forward to the progress on this.
Thank you.
And with that, that concludes our agenda. Colleagues, any announcements? All right. Well, I believe it's time for adjournment. Councilmember Smith, would you like to do the honors?
I would. Thank you. Motion to adjourn.
Second, Hillis.
There we go.
We are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.